Good morning. My name is Heather McLean, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a member of your board of directors. Welcome to White Bear Unitarian Universalist Church. We are a community of youth, adults, and children held together by covenant, not creed. We are children, youth, and adults of many diverse theologies, including, but not limited to, atheists, theists, and agnostics. Together, we share the values of courage, reverence, and compassion. May you know deep welcome and belonging in this place. We encourage that welcome by asking everyone to wear a name tag and to have a small moment of greeting your neighbor. Let's do that now. Thank you. Our preacher today is Nico Van Ostrand. Nico is our Assistant Director of Religious Education, and they are a seminarian at United Theological Seminary. Nico has been sponsored by this congregation as they move towards Unitarian Universalist ministry. To share a request for today's meditation, please place it in the chat box before the opening hymn or add it to our meditation bowl. Please gain consent before you use someone's full name. The meditation bowl is in the Soulwork Center, along with some activities to help people of all ages engage with today's service. As many of you know, our trans and gender expansive beloveds are under attack and being criminalized in many US states right now. The Unitarian Universalist Association and Unitarian Universalist Service Committee are partnering directly with frontline trans-led organizing to create networks of safety and direct support for folks who need to relocate, access healthcare across state lines, or stay as safe as possible where they are. You are invited to learn more about this work and make connections with organizers and others who are interested in supporting trans and gender expansive people this Saturday, November 11th at 12:30 p.m. here at WBUUC. Please RSVP to the link in the e-news. We're hosting a remembrance gathering for a longtime member, Dee Smith, on Sunday, November 19th at 2 p.m. There will be a simple meal of soup, salad, bread, and dessert. Come with your stories to share, and please RSVP so that we know how many people to plan for. The RSVP form is in the e-news, or you can email Reverend Jack. Our T-coil hearing loop hadn't been working the last few weeks. We're really sorry about that. It should be up and running again. If you have any issues, please be sure to speak with someone at the Welcome Center. And lastly, we have a memorial service today at 2 p.m. We're asking everyone who stays for social hour to please wrap up your conversations by 1 p.m. so that we can begin to welcome the family and the guests for the memorial. And now an announcement from Jack and Jessica.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Jessica. My pronouns are she, her.
I'm Reverend Jack. My pronouns are he, him.
Good morning, Jack.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Excited to be here this morning. The 9 a.m. service was fabulous, so you all are in for a treat. And I'm just enjoying getting to know this community and all of the events and things that are happening this fall. So many things that are happening. But today we want to talk to you about what's happening on December 2nd.
Correct. Saturday night. Anybody know what's happening that night? The service auction. Exactly. They know.
The choir also knows because they heard this in the first service. I'm just saying. Yes, the service auction, super exciting. My first service auction with you all. Tell us about what's happening that night.
So many things. We're going to have a beautiful Italian dinner, live music, dancing. The online auction will continue into that night. You can still bid on online auction items. There's also a small bazaar for smaller items. I mean, there's all the things. And a live auction for all the big items with a special mystery auctioneer.
So how are Melba and Jean doing with getting donations?
They're doing pretty well. They're getting some, but they could still use more, especially cookies, because we like cookies.
I do like a good cookie.
Bigger items. I know one of the ones we have is the painting that was created this summer right here during our worship service, for those of you that were there that Sunday. But we still need more. So
yes.
If you, for instance, have a boat or a lake house and could offer time there, people love experiences.
They do. I was just going to say that. They love experiences. And so we know that not everyone has a boat or a lake house, but for those of you who do, other people would like to go to yours.
Mm-hmm. That's what we've heard.
And I mean, it's a thing here.
Yeah.
Going to the lake.
And there's the Fund a Need.
The Fund a Need, which is so exciting. We are funding this year a scholarship fund to go to General Assembly. Do you want to tell them what General Assembly is?
Absolutely. It's the business meeting that happens once per year that also has ways to connect to other UUs and continue your education. It happens in person and then virtually in rotating years starting this year. So last year we sent a full slate of 13 delegates from here, 7 in person and 6 were virtual. Mm-hmm. And we need a fund established to keep being able to send our people to that gathering. And the next in-person one is in Baltimore in 2 years.
Yes, and the UUA does offer scholarships or like a matching congregational grant, but that just covers registration, and there are many other costs associated with going, which is why some of you may have been prohibited from going in the past. And something that was mentioned to me in candidating week was, how was I going to help strengthen this congregation's connections to the UUA? And by supporting this fund, that is one of those ways, so that we can have a strong delegation of people who go and learn about what our faith is deciding on, voting on, and bring that back to this congregation. Many of you remember our fantastic service this past August, where people who had been to GA shared reflections on it, and it was really great. So, and also the president of the UUA is coming to preach at my installation on May 18th. So mark your calendars.
This is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Mark your calendars.
Yes, and so looking for all the ways that we can strengthen our relationship with the UUA. And tell me about the auction, because I have Nori, my daughter, who's 8 months old, and what's there for her at this auction?
People of all ages are welcome. There will be activities for everyone, and there's also childcare provided.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. Sounds like a fun time to me.
It's gonna be fun.
And also, we said cookies, but hello, it's the Midwest. Bars.
Bars are welcome too.
Come on now.
Bars are welcome.
Yes, amazing. We hope to see you all there. It's going to be a great time, and hope that you're able to donate goods, services, anything that can help. And I'm going to have a sermon in the auction that's up for people to pick the topic.
Me too. You get to pick the topic.
Oh,
I know.
my goodness.
Don't make it too hard, though.
Right, right. Why is the sky blue?
I don't
Done.
know.
Speaking of difficult questions, I'm going to go hang out with the youth, who I hear has a whole list of questions
They
for
have
me.
a lot of questions for
Yes, so I will
Have
see
fun.
you later. Okay, thank you
you.
all.
Bye. For this morning's prelude, the choir will be singing a song called If You Can Walk, You Can Dance. We know that not everyone can walk and not everyone can dance, and we are trying our best in our musical choices to be inclusive of all people. As a culture, we're becoming more and more aware of some of the ableist assumptions inherent in many of our words and songs. We've spoken with the composer of this piece and shared our concern with her, and she encouraged us to sing it through once with the original words and then choose new words that honor the expansive ways that we move through the world, beyond just walking and dancing. This song is also based on a Zimbabwean proverb, and sometimes when a proverb from one culture gets arranged by a person from another culture, something can get lost in translation. We hope that by naming this tricky dynamic, we can appreciate the music and respect the original context of the proverb. Thank you to the choir for sharing this music with us this morning.
Welcome to our church, where we grow our souls and serve the world together.
Our call to worship words this morning are from the Reverend Elizabeth Mount. Co-regulation. From our very first breath, we reach out. Co-regulation, not self-regulation, is in our nature. We find our cues from the sun and the moon, from each parent and caregiver. We find our place in this great turning planet. by turning to one another. Generation to generation, we awaken to the dawn and fall asleep at the evening's end. Our life's journey is part of something greater, something simple, something divine. A flame cannot be lit without a spark. A life cannot begin without the air, and we cannot begin to find ourselves without love. May we reach out to one another. May we offer love and nurturing care. May we join together in celebration of the interdependence of our lives. In this spirit, let us worship together.
Good morning. I'm Janet Urbanowitz, and my pronouns are she, her. Thinking about this month's theme of interconnectedness, the first words that come to my mind are, without each other, who are we? I believe our need for connection is innate. We yearn for it. We yearn to be known, fully known, for who we really are, for our authentic selves, by our family, our friends, and our community, and to be fully accepted and valued as we are. And we yearn to know and accept others in that same full way. That's in part what brings us to this church community. I know I'm not alone in having experienced all of that here over many years. With that said, I and others here had an interesting surprise during the recent horrible time of COVID, a time that kept us physically so far apart. What we found, paradoxically, and actually mentioned to each other, was that being randomly divided online into small groups during the cyber social hour, we were actually meeting and getting to know more persons than we had come to know in a few years during our social hours after church in person. And we were having meaningful conversations in those small circles that could sometimes feel intimate and touching. That experience is why I am so pleased that we are having those same conversation circles again, not only online, but here in person in our social hall. Those circles, we learned, are meaningful and enjoyable ways not only to welcome new members or persons attending, but also to express ourselves and know each other more fully. What we always find, I believe, is that in coming to know people more fully, we also come to appreciate and value them more deeply. We light the chalice this morning to honor those deep and sacred bonds of friendship that are formed in many ways here in our church community.
My name is Nico, and my pronouns are they, them. Join me in the opening words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, number 1020 in the teal paperback hymnal, 1024 in the teal paperback hymnal, when the Spirit says do.
My name is Amy, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'd like to invite any children who would like to come forward. I have something special I'd like to share with you all for this morning's story. You can come sit right up here. And anyone else of any age that would like to come forward for this morning's story, you're more than welcome. So this morning, I have a couple special things to share with you. I've shared a couple times over the last couple of weeks that I, like you, grew up in Unitarian Universalist congregations. Maybe like some of you who in here grew up in Unitarian Universalist congregations. Take a look around to see a few hands of others that grew up in Unitarian Universalist congregations, a lot like this one. And I've been thinking a lot lately about what made that experience of growing up in a church like this one pretty special. And so what I brought with me is a project that I made when I was in a spiritual growth circle in a little class and with other kids, just like you go to, we'll go to in a minute. And we made this when I was like maybe 8 or 9 years old. So the assignment was from my spiritual growth leader, the adult that leads our class, the facilitator, to bring in a rock, and then we would paint it with a chalice. And so that's what we did. And this rock has stayed with me ever since then, which is kind of a long time ago now. But I still have it, and it's moved with me to all the different places that I've moved to so far in my life. So what was so special about this isn't necessarily the chalice or the lesson that went along with it. I don't remember what the lesson was that day at all. But what I do remember is that I had a very special experience finding this rock together with my grandfather. We went on a really long walk together, and we found this rock. And as we always did from the time I was really young, we had lots of conversations on that walk. We would talk about religion, yes, even when I was young. My grandfather was not Unitarian Universalist, he was Lutheran. So sometimes we would agree on things and sometimes we would disagree on things, and that was okay. But there was one thing that was pretty similar at my grandparents' house that was very similar to what we did at church. And that was those open conversations about lots of different things between generations. So between people of all ages, young and old. At my grandparents' house, we would gather for big meals. Do you ever gather for big meals together sometimes? Yeah, you do? Yeah, that's great. And one thing that my grandparents did that I really, really treasure now is we did not have a kids' table. We would all squeeze together, all of us, my cousins, my aunts and uncles, my mom and dad, my siblings, my grandparents, all at the same table, and we would have lots of conversations together. And sometimes those conversations were a little boring. Have you ever had that experience? Yeah, have you ever had that experience? Yeah, pretty similar, huh? And so we would take that time talking about all of the different things that mattered to us, and we would break bread together, we would share stories with one another, we would listen to one another. And I don't remember all of the things that were said around that table, but I do know that I learned a lot about the world in those conversations. I learned about the experiences and the opinions about my family members, some of which I agreed with, some of which I grew to disagree with. And over time, I learned the stories of our family too. Some of those stories that they would tell would get bigger and bigger every time. So they were more like family myths. Have you ever heard those stories before? Like the fish got this big and then this big? No? Well, just you wait. Yeah. And I know, another thing that was really important is they would ask me what was important to me. And so we didn't always agree around those multi-generational tables. That word multi-generational is the word we use to talk about all ages coming together, young and old. And sometimes feelings were complicated, but relationships were built around these tables through those conversations and disagreements. And I felt seen and heard and valued, and it was so important. And at church, like this one, I had a similar experience. In the sanctuary and in the social hall and in our classrooms and at special gatherings, we would come together, all ages, together, and we would learn from one another. And even though I sometimes loved my time with just my peers, that time, all ages together, was so important to me. I remember learning from a lot of different conversations and learning that, guess what, all of us are learning for our entire lives, and we can learn from each other our entire lives, and all of us have wisdom to share. In fact, I have another fun thing to share with you all. I have this number here, 564. Anybody have a guess what this number is? Yeah, just no. It is 564. What do you think it is? It's exactly right. It is. It's 564 years, which is the combined age of all of the children who are enrolled in our circles for children and youth. That's a lot of years of wisdom to share. You guys have 564 years worth of story and wisdom to share with everyone else in the room. Now, I don't have the same data on all of you folks out here, but I'm willing to bet that if we add up all of the ages and all of the years of wisdom of all of you that you have to share with one another, it would be a very big number. Just imagine in your mind what that number is. Yeah, pretty big, right? So, well, did somebody have a guess? Yeah. So we need one another. We need to share our wisdom with one another. And that's why I do the work that I do with you all. And you all is because there are so few places in our world where all ages can come together to share wisdom with one another. Outside of churches, there just aren't many places where all ages intentionally learn from one another. And so today, Nico and I are extending a special invitation to everyone here. After the service, about 10 minutes after, we're going to lead a tour of our classrooms where all of you meet. So you can learn a little bit more about the wisdom that we share back in our circles and what it is we do in Unitarian Universalist spiritual growth programs. And maybe you grew up UU and you just want to learn about what we do now in spiritual growth programming. We also want to invite you all to participate in our conversation circles in the social hall, because do you have wisdom to share? Yeah, we absolutely have wisdom to share. So learning and growing is something that we do for our entire lives, and you're learning, and I'm learning, and we're learning together. And I'm just so grateful that you all are here to be a part of this very wise multi-generational community. Does that sound good? Yeah. So we're going to sing our children on their way, and their facilitators on their way to their circles, where we're going to share some more wisdom together. And we hope to see some of you at 10 minutes after the service. The hymn is 1057, Go Lift It Up. Please rise in body or spirit.
Let's pause for a moment of stillness and meditation. Find a comfortable seat, feel your weight supported, relax your shoulders away from your ears, and just take a breath together. Spirit of life, spirit of love, spirit of mystery and wonder. Gathered here today, about 130 people here in this room and 27 households on Zoom. Just last Sunday, we celebrated Remembrance Sunday, thinking of our beloved ancestors. And here we are, the nights are getting darker, preparing for a new season, moving into the season of gratitude and harvest. Like nature around us, we feel the cycles turning and the cycles of life turn around us as well. Joy and loss, energy and rest, ease and dis-ease. We have so much to be grateful for. Our list is long. These brisk days, our connections with our family and friends and pets, the everyday rituals that keep us grounded, and so much more. We pause for a moment of gratitude, holding on to the feeling that asks us to say thanks. We also notice the beauty of our world, gorgeous sunrises and sunsets that paint the sky, our natural surroundings of trees and rivers, plants and critters, lakes and flowers. We form human connections that range from fleeting to deep, and these connections sustain us. We pause for a moment of awe, holding on to the feeling that asks us to say, wow. And we also notice the complexity of our emotions, spanning the whole spectrum from joy to sorrows. We find ourselves in a position where we need support and care, as do those that we love. There can be so much struggle in this life, isolation and loneliness, addiction, death, disease, problems with our health, mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. We pause for a moment of humility where we know and say that we can't do it alone. We can't find all the solutions on our own. We hold on to the feeling that asks us to say, help. This morning, this congregation holds in light and in love all the people who are undergoing various surgeries in this community, all the people struggling with addiction, and the people wrestling with grief and loss. We especially hold Libby and Spencer and Cameron Knapstein, mourning the loss of their husband and father, John. His memorial is happening this afternoon. May his legacy and his memory be a blessing to all those who knew him. We also have a request here. Someone wants prayers for my dear friend. In this moment of stillness, when our thoughts might be racing, we take a deep breath in and out. Into this moment of mutual support, we name out loud the names of those we are holding in our hearts and minds. Knowing that together this community can hold us all, this web of interconnection. May it be so and make it so. Amen. The hymn that we just sang when our children and youth left for their spiritual growth classes is Go Lifted Up, and we sing it so regularly that sometimes we might miss the beauty and magic of the blessing that it holds. We are really blessing our children and youth on their way across the threshold between here and their classroom space, and blessing them into the learning that awaits them. This morning, we're going to sing it a second time, and we'll be singing it to each other, blessing each other on our respective journeys. Please remain seated as we sing Go Lift It Up, number 1057.
Today, the Social Action Committee's special collection is for the Minnesota Unitarian Universalist Social Justice Alliance, also known as Moose Jaw. This is our statewide UU social justice organization. Through UU congregations and community connections, it focuses on defending democracy and climate, immigration, racial, reproductive, and gender justice issues. Moose Jaw connects and supports 24 Minnesota UU congregations and 7 congregations in Wisconsin, South Dakota, and North Dakota. Many of these congregations are in rural areas and may be their region's only progressive religious voice. Having this support system is vital. WBUUC has a long-standing connection with Moose Jaw. Our support is needed to continue this important work. Please give generously. You can contribute today as we pass the baskets, and as always, you can donate in 3 other ways. On the WBUUC webpage, send a check or leave a check in the front office lockbox, or use the text to give option. No matter how you give, please indicate the keyword Moose Jaw. The offertory will now be gratefully collected.
This morning's reading is titled Rules for Children in the Worship Service by C.B. Beale. 1, if you find that you're sitting in front of a child and they can't see, lean to the side. 2, if the children seated behind you are rustling papers, hand them a crayon. 3, if there is a baby that is crying, offer to take the baby from their parent and walk to the back of church and rock the child for a while. The parent really needs a break. 4, if the teenagers are whispering, give them some Smarties. The rustling and crinkling will replace their whispering. 5, if an adult complains to an usher about the noisy children near them, offer to trade seats with that adult and then apologize to the parents of the children. 6, when a child is running around giving everyone high fives during the time of passing the peace greeting to your neighbor, make sure to give them an extra fun high five, and then high five the next 5 adults that you see. 7, if a child has worn tap shoes to the church and is dancing on the wood portion of the floor, slip the sheet music for the entertainer to the pianist and roll with it. 8, when the children can't hear because an adult around them won't take off the puffy jacket and it keeps squeaking and distracting the children, offer to help them with their jacket and go hang it up for them where it goes. 9, when the 3-year-old insists on standing on the front pew turned backwards, looking at the rest of the people, give the child a pair of dark glasses. That will prevent the child from catching any adult's eye, which would lead to distracting them. This will protect the adults who, as we know, have very short attention spans and are easily distracted. 10, when a child in front of you is very squirmy and then they finally turn around and you realize suddenly, oh, it's Jesus. Take it in stride and play Got Your Nose till he turns around to the front again.
The choir is singing a song called Al Shlosha. The translation is this: the world is sustained by 3 things, by truth, by justice, and by peace.
I am in my last year of seminary, which means after college, I decided to go back for more college to become a minister like Reverend Jessica and Reverend Jack someday. Each week, my teachers assign a lot of reading and a lot of homework. And right now, my classes are about UU beliefs, world religions, and the ways that religious education helps build community. These are all pretty different subjects, but most of it boils down to something called thinking theologically. Can you try saying that? Think theologically. Great. I'll assume you know what thinking means. Theology is more or less the study of things related to God or religion. So to think theologically is to think about how things are related to religion, a religion like Unitarian Universalism, for example. There are 3 steps to thinking theologically. Step 1 is to read, watch, or experience something. Step 2 is to ask yourself, what does this teach me about God? Or if you don't believe in God, what does it teach you about spirituality, or the universe, or the mysteries of life? There's a word we sometimes use to describe all of those things, the divine. Many people come to church because they want to learn about or be closer to the divine. So, step 1, read, watch, or do something. Step 2, ask what that teaches us about the divine. And step 3 is to reflect. What does that thing I just learned about the divine say about the world or my life? I'll give you an example to give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. A few minutes ago, we heard a reading by UU social justice leader and religious educator named C.B. Beale. There they are. Let's take some of their words for step 1. Rule 10. When a child in front of you is very squirmy, and then they finally turn around and you realize suddenly, oh, it's Jesus. Take it in stride, like got your nose, till he turns around to the front again. Great. Step 1, read something, done. Step 2, what is CB saying about the divine? Well, here are some clues. Jesus was a great teacher and a religious leader who many people believe was related to God. That seems like a pretty clear place to start. So if someone in front of you has the wiggles, they're not being rude, they're acting like Jesus. This text is saying that we can find Jesus, the divine, in everyone. Now, step 3, what does the idea that the divine is in every person say about the world or my life? If the divine is in every person is special. Everyone is important. This is our first UU principle. Each person has inherent worth and dignity. And if I really believe that to be true about everyone, even the squirmy person in front of me, even my best friend, even the most annoying or problematic person I've ever met, and even myself, if I really believe that we are all important, the way I treat each person should match that. I might even need to change the way I behave. And look at that, by thinking theologically about one single sentence, we've already come to a hint about how to live our lives in a more UU way. This practice of thinking theologically is not just for people like me who want to be a minister one day, it's for everyone who comes to church and even for people who don't. You can use the think theologically steps on your favorite show or story. You can use it when you experience something really exciting or really difficult. It's a tool you can use as a guide for deepening your own UU and spiritual practices. I'll pause here for a moment and shift gears a bit. I wrote that first part of this sermon with the 2nd and 3rd graders of this community in mind. I did exactly what I have been doing since I started working here, came up with a way to talk about theology with 10-year-olds. You probably picked up on some of my tricks, but here they are. First, it was short. I aimed for under 5 minutes, which is roughly 1/3 the length of the average sermon here. I included visuals and interaction by showing a picture of C.B. Beale, printing out the steps, and asking you all to repeat think theologically out loud. I connected concepts to concrete things by using Jessica and Jack as examples of ministers, and I adjusted my description of seminary to relate to a 10-year-old's experience of a classroom. I picked my words carefully. I still used some big words, but I took the time to define them, to illustrate the concept, and to return to it later to reinforce it. And I bet when you think back to this sermon in a few days, you will remember more from those first 5 minutes than you will from anything else that I'm going to say for the rest of my time up here. Because there was more for you to grab onto, more for more of your senses to connect with. I also built that first chunk of my sermon on the assumption that for kids and spiritually or theologically deep are not mutually exclusive concepts. I assumed that kids care about what church is all about. I assumed they can and do think theologically, and that if I did my job correctly, they would have no problem entering into that conversation. This is basically what we do in the classrooms with children and youth each Sunday. We work together to think theologically, to explore the divine, and decide what that means for our own lives. Let's add some shading to that practice of thinking theologically now. Let me say right away that yes, the word theology comes from Greek words for God and words or discourse. So historically, it is very Christian and it refers to God's word. Over the years, that definition has broadened beyond Christianity, beyond God, with some humanists even taking it to refer to the study of the human condition. I'm using it today, meaning related to the divine, very broadly defined, or related to the spiritual values of a person or community. There are some other things implied in the 3 steps of thinking theologically, and it's worth noting those steps don't always happen in order, sometimes mixed up or in reverse. In the process of thinking theologically, we are simultaneously determining whether or not we agree with the text and its claim about the divine or about the world. And it doesn't stop with just thinking about it. The whole process builds towards action. What will I change about the way I live my life to either align more closely with or move away from the claims being made? And if you don't agree with the theological claim being made, you are also tasked with articulating why you don't agree with it and what claim you might offer instead. This thinking theologically thing is not just a seminary exercise, it is the story of our faith. There are countless examples in our UU history of people encountering and experiencing religion, thinking about it theologically, and changing their ideas of the divine and the ways they lived their lives accordingly. UU theology did not just pop out of the ground. It has undergone rigorous examination and messy transformation, and we will not be the ones to end that legacy. For better or for worse, the way we do church is an expression of our theology, and my call this morning is to think about the theological grounding of those ways that we do church. 20th century Unitarian theologian James Luther Adams famously said, "An unexamined faith is not worth having, for it can only be true by accident." I don't imagine any of you would be convinced to entrust your spiritual life to a community that is only right by accident. And so today I am inviting you into an examination of our faith. Well, examining the whole of Unitarian Universalism is a lifelong project, so let's start small with an example from this congregation. Take as step 1 to thinking theologically this month's theme, interdependence, the practice of noticing connections. What does this theme say about the divine? Perhaps the divine itself is the connection between us in every corner of the web of life. Perhaps the divine is most present when we reject individualism and instead notice our connections to others. If that is true about the divine, then the most beautiful moments on earth happen in community. The beloved community manifests when we recognize the connections, the divine, in each other. I'd even say that this theme calls us to go deeper than the interdependence of actions and reactions, and into the connection between souls and the ways we experience the world. So not just connected on the level of that wiggly kid is disrupting my meditation, but connected as in I am responsible for holding this sacred space in a way that honors that child's worth and my own, because the connection between us is so deep that I cannot reject them without rejecting myself. Or from another angle, not just that wiggly kid is behaving cutely and I'm really glad to see them in church, but that child's actions are part of how we do church here. And because we are deeply connected, their way of doing church and mine and everyone else's influence each other in each moment. We on staff here have decided that we agree with these claims, and part of our answer to what will you do about it was to make some changes over the past few years to the programs we offer for children and youth. We wanted to create containers that better support the community in honoring interdependence across generations that help us all hold sacred space with and for each other. We changed the name of our religious education classes to Spiritual Growth Circles for Children and Youth, to reorient us towards a collaborative spiritual journey. We ask facilitators, formerly called teachers, to lead children and youth in rituals, activities, and games that are related to the story told in service, which is connected to the sermon topic, which is connected to the monthly theme, which guides the hymn and reading selection, all of which is captured in the theme packet, which guides theme circle meetings. We hoped that by more closely aligning all of these programs, we would be able to more easily recognize the ways even those of us not currently raising kids through the program are connected with the young ones of this community. We've heard from so many of you that you love seeing kids at church. We've heard your worries about how the pandemic has affected our kids and our youth, your hopes for and in the next generation, your concerns about accessibility in multi-generational services for people of all ages and differing needs. The question of how we do or how we should welcome children and youth to WBUUC is alive and clearly very important to this congregation. I hope that conversation continues, and I hope you think of Amy and me and other staff as partners in that conversation. There's nothing easy about being interdependent, and we are counting on you just as much as you're counting on us to help figure out how to do church in ways that accurately express our theology. I'll leave you today with two invitations. The first is for those of you in the building today to meet us in the atrium 10 minutes after the hour for a brief tour of the classrooms and an explanation of the spiritual growth program. We do this every month for new families, but today the invitation is out especially to those of you who don't have kids in the program right now. The first step in recognizing our connections is understanding the landscape of our community. I hope you'll join us. The second invitation is to keep thinking theologically about the ways we do church here, and especially about how we welcome children and youth. Consider all of the questions, concerns, and possibilities at play. Center our interdependence as we create this sacred, multi-generational community together. May it be so. I invite you to rise now in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, Building on New Way, number 1017 in the teal paperback hymnal. Our closing words are the ones we use at the end of spiritual growth circles for children and youth. Grateful for being here, grateful for being here together.